Alexis. Today we're going to be talking about the Mama Natural birth course. If you watched my birth story, you know that I am a huge believer in this course. This is what helped me to have an all-natural birth and to feel confident about it. I think that's the biggest part for me, was as I was in labor, I felt prepared, I felt ready, and it's all because of this course. Now, I want to start off by saying I really had no intentions of doing an online birth course, but when COVID hit, I really didn't have, honestly, another opportunity because going to the hospital wasn't even an option. And so my midwife recommended us look for some online classes, and I stumbled upon this one. And what I really was, I think, attracted to was they talked mostly about having a natural birth, but there was other topics that were talked about, like having an epidural, possibly having a C-section, and then for mamas who have had a previous birth, also a VBAC. So I was very interested in just all the information in this course, and I felt like it was very detailed. So that's what kind of led me into it. But after taking the course, I can honestly say it is worth every single penny. If you are contemplating on getting it, I can tell you right now, it is 100% worth it. If you don't want to finish watching this video, take my word for it. It's amazing. But today what I'm going to do is outline all the things that I loved about this course, also a couple things that I was a little bit disappointed with, and then we're going to hear from my husband. He's going to tell us a little bit about his thoughts about it, because when I recorded my birth story, a lot of people were asking me about the course, and the one question they kept asking was, what does your husband think? Did he like it? Did he do it with you? And so he actually really liked it. So he's going to give us a little bit of insight on what he thought as well. So let's get started with what I loved about this course. So the first thing that I loved was just that I felt completely prepared. There was so much information. They really were detailed and went into a lot of examples, I feel like, as to what could be possibilities when labor happens. There are so many outcomes that can happen, so many things that you may not be prepared for, and this just kind of tells you everything. The second thing that I loved is it wasn't boring. Each class was, I would say, between 45 minutes and like an hour and 15 minutes. So they were long enough that you could sit there in one setting, but short enough where I didn't feel like I had to clear out my whole night to sit there and watch these videos. I could watch them at my own pace, which was another huge pro. My husband works weird shifts, so it was really helpful that we could just set aside time every week. And I think that was something that a lot of people maybe struggle with in online course, is just worrying that they're not going to be able to stick with it because you have to be diligent about watching your videos. But if you get behind, you can always watch a couple of videos in a week, which is why I really, really liked this. The next thing that I loved about this course is there was no awkwardness. So my husband and I could snuggle in bed, watch the birth course, and not feel like we were in a room with a bunch of other couples and just feeling awkward. I think we all kind of worry about that feeling about going to childbirth class, like, oh gosh, there's going to be other couples there. And my husband actually really wanted to go. He thought it would be a fun experience, where I was more like, no, I feel like I'm already blushing thinking about it. But yeah, no, not what I wanted to do. So this course is perfect for that because you can do it in the comfort of your own home. The next thing that we really enjoyed about this course was that there was a lot of scientific knowledge in here. So they really went through everything and gave a science-based reason behind it. Also, my husband loved the fact that there was a lot of medical terminology. So when I was in labor, he was understanding what the nurses maybe were talking about or saying, because we had gone through this course and they really explained it very well. We also loved that every section had parts where couples would tell their story. So I think there was like 4 or 5 couples that told their story throughout each session. And so it was very interesting because everybody obviously has a different story. Some of them had multiple kiddos, so they had multiple stories to share. And it really just helped me to feel confident and prepared, because I heard that this mom did it and that mom did it and this happened and this is how they, overcame that. So I think it was really cool that she was able to have so many different opinions in there as well. We also really liked that this course was taught by a midwife. So Mama Natural her name is Genevieve, and her and Maura, the midwife, they have a conversation back and forth about each topic. And so what I liked about this is there was someone who was medically trained who was able to give you the information, and then there was Mama Natural who gave you kind of the everyday questions, the questions that I would have, and she was there to answer them, and also to break down those really confusing medical terms. She was kind of like, oh, this is what this means in very simple everyday terms. So I liked that a lot. I liked that the midwife was very natural based. So she had a natural birth herself, and that's really what she talked about. But she also knew about a lot of what she calls the interventions that you could possibly come up against. The next thing I really liked about this course is that it was all geared towards a natural birth. Now, obviously they talked about things like having an epidural, possibly having a C-section, like these things that could happen. So I liked that part. But all of it was really geared towards just a natural, unmedicated birth. And the more I surrounded myself with this, the more I heard about it, the more confident and really prepared I felt to have that. And when I was in labor, I was thinking about the stories that were told and all the information here that was geared towards that. And it made me want to have a natural birth even more. Now, I kind of just said this, but I like that they touched on some of the possibilities and the unexpecteds that could happen. They have this acronym that they share with you, and that helps you to, I think it's called BRAIN, and it helps you to kind of go through, okay, in this situation, what would I do? And so for me, I was put up against, you're going to need Pitocin, because I was 4 weeks, I was 4 weeks early, and my water broke. I had no contractions when I went to the hospital, and my midwife was like, I think we need to put you on Pitocin to get things rolling so you can actually have a natural birth. And I went with my gut, which was, I want to wait until at least, it was like several hours later, see if things kind of get going. And they did, and I didn't end up needing Pitocin. So I think it's important to kind of know that, yes, this course is all about the natural stuff, but they do touch on, what if these scenarios come up? What should I do? So there are 8 different classes in this course, and each one has a birth story that follows. And they kind of go along with, or they more focus on the part of labor that they are talking about in that class. And each one is a positive story. So you don't have to worry about watching this video that is scary, or it shows this woman just like in complete, distraught pain. Like, they're all really encouraging, and it helps you to see what a true natural childbirth is. Because I think if you go to those birthing classes, at least this is what my friends have told me, that they'll show you, these videos that are from like the early 2000s, and they're, very just cut and dry. And so these videos are real. These are real women, real couples that had real stories. They were real births. Like, nothing was fake about it. It was a lot of videography of just people kind of being a fly on the wall looking in on this woman's birth. So they had many different ones. They had a water birth, they had a hospital birth, they had home birth. So all of these different things, so you can get an idea of what would be best for you. The next thing is that they have some bonus videos that I was so happy they included. They had a whole, I think, hour and 15-minute video on breastfeeding. This was a huge game changer for me. As many of you know, my daughter was sent to the NICU, and so our breastfeeding journey did not start in the way I had really planned on. But when we were able to start breastfeeding, I'm pretty sure a lot of moms would have given up, because we had to use a nipple shield, and she wasn't latching, and it was really frustrating. I was engorged, like, everything was against us, and we just kept pushing through. And I think a lot of that was because of this course. I was able to learn so much about breastfeeding and know, different angles to try, different things to do that would help us to have a positive experience. So it's really cool that they included that here. And the midwife, Maura, really gives some great tips on this, which I was super thankful for, because I'm telling you, without this, I don't think that we would have been able to really push past and have such a great breastfeeding relationship now. The last thing that I think this is worth it in itself is Mama Natural has a Facebook group that is so worth it. Like, I would just pay to be in this Facebook group, because there are thousands of moms in this group that have either been through birth, are going to be having a baby, and then she has another group for what she calls graduates. And you can ask questions here. You can ask, has this ever happened to you? What do you guys think? Should I call my midwife? Is this contractions? Like all those questions that you have, the answers are there. When I was in the NICU, I had so many questions about my daughter because I'd never been in the NICU, and it was so nice to be able to share things on there, ask questions, and get answers from real moms and not be looking on the internet where, you guys know, I'm terrible with Googling. So if I Google things, I'm going to find things I do not want to find. And so this group, I just find it like a safe space to be able to ask those questions and get real moms help, and also kind of make your judgment from there. So there were only a few things that I was really disappointed about. And one thing was that they really played up the home birth center. And if that's for you, this course, like, you're gonna absolutely love it without a shadow of a doubt. But for me, I was planning on having a hospital birth because my midwife only did hospital births. And I felt like they just made the hospital birth look like not good. I don't know how else to explain that, but it just was not good in comparison to the home birth and the birth center. They made those look like that was the best case scenario. That's what you should do. And let's be real, a lot of us can't do anything else other than a hospital birth, or maybe that's your only choice. And so I think I just wish that they had not made that look so terrible. Like, I wish that they had shown what I experienced, which was honestly a great experience, and I would love to do it again that way. I felt safe, I felt comfortable. I also felt like I could totally have a natural birth without being pressured to have an epidural or any of those things. So that's one thing that I just wish was a little bit different. The next thing that my husband and I just did not love about the course was the dad section is super corny. So they do talk about kind of the things dads can expect. It's her husband and a few of the husbands from the sessions, like in the sessions, but it's corny, and we kind of skip through it. So just know that you can kind of skip through that part. But yeah, besides that, it's kind of nice, I guess, to hear a guy's perspective. I just wish it was a little more real. The next thing is that it was very repetitive. So I feel like from session to session, there were some things that really overlapped. And maybe that was good because we knew a lot about those things. But sometimes it was like, okay, I already know this. You already mentioned this. I don't want to go into detail about this whole thing again. So just kind of be aware that there is some repetitiveness, and in those parts we did kind of skip ahead, but it's probably important to know it too. So there's probably a reason for the repetitiveness, but that is in there. The last thing that I was disappointed about was that they used the word intervention so much, and they made it sound like such a bad thing. I feel like maybe I'm making it a little more dramatic than it is, but I just did not like the word intervention. I didn't like the way they used the word, and I felt like if I wanted an epidural, I didn't want it to necessarily sound like this was this bad, terrible thing, because then I would just feel this guilt and this terribleness about having an epidural. And my midwife was really, really for the fact of being comfortable and doing what you wanted to do. So if I got into labor and I was feeling like, no, I really want an epidural, she wanted me to feel like that was still okay. And so I think that's an important thing going into this course to know, is that they're going to talk about the interventions and they're going to make them sound like these horrible things, but it's really not that bad if that is your choice. If you want an epidural, it's totally okay, and just go into it knowing that. So the things that are included in this course are 8 classes, which are extremely detailed. They all have, like I said, a birth story to go with it, and just a lot of good information along with some techniques and things to help you along in labor. They have 4 bonus videos, and those include things like a VBAC, breastfeeding, a hospital birth, and there's one more, I don't remember the last one. And they have, she has birth cards, or birth affirmation cards, which you can read weekly to help just keep you in a positive mindset. And then she has these recordings. There's one that's faith-based and there's one that's not, but they're affirmations. And so you listen to it. I would listen to it once or twice a day, and it just helps to get you into that positive mindset and keep reinforcing that you can do it. You are a strong, as my husband would say, a strong and independent woman. He said this about 100 times. So anyway, there was that. And then let me see, look at my notes here. She has prenatal exercise videos, a natural labor playbook, hospital bag checklists, birth plan. Like she's everything. So it's definitely well worth the money. I don't think there is like really anything I regret about this course. I feel like this is what helped me to have an all natural birth. So now we are going to chat with my husband about what he thought about this course and just some kind of tips for the guys listening. So I wanted to bring my husband on to kind of give you guys another perspective of what he thought of the course. I get so many questions from mamas asking, like, what did your husband think? Did he do it with you? All that stuff. So that's why he's here. To
that's
kind of
right.
give us some manly insight.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So first of all, did you do the course with me? And how did that go?
Yes, we did the course. We sat down once a week and we just went through it. It was about an hour long. It wasn't too bad. I figured, 1 hour a week. We were going to go to some sort of course. We were going to go to some sort of course, whether it was an in-person Lamaze course or, do this online one. So I figured.
And you wanted to do the
actually, that was the thing I was going to talk about, in the video when you asked what I didn't like about it was I wanted to go to an in-person one because I'm a class clown, and so I wanted to make myself the center of attention at the real course, make everybody laugh. So
do you think it's important that guys do this course with their wife?
Yeah, I think that for everybody it's different. For us it was important that I did it, and it was important because in the moment, when she was giving birth, things like just the simple fact of remembering that she could do it was, something that I was there to remind her, and things that, all the stuff that I learned in the video, I was able to remind her of you're at this phase, you only have this much longer to go. Once you get to this phase, you're in the clear. Whatever it was, I knew all the information from the video to where I could coach her along and be basically a doula.
Right, because we didn't have a doula.
Right.
We were in COVID, and you also didn't really think that I was going to need a doula.
I didn't want to spend money on a doula.
They're expensive. But looking back, I'm really glad that we didn't, because I feel like we were such a great team.
Right.
And I know not everybody has that
experience.
Right,
I think if there was a doula, I probably would have just stood in the corner and watched and not really been active. I mean, I'm sure the doula, I've never experienced it before, but I'm sure the doula gets the husband involved pretty well. But I would have taken more of a back seat and let her run it, to whereas I felt I needed to step up to the plate and kind of be there and coach her and guide her, stuff like that.
So now let's say there's a mama who husband doesn't really want to do it. Maybe he's squeamish. Maybe he just doesn't want to do it. He's not interested. What advice would you give to her?
Well, okay, so like I said, my mindset was we were going to go to some sort of a birth course, whether it was like an in-person Lamaze or something like that. And so for me, my mindset was just, well, this is the one we're going to do. It's going to be online instead of in person at the hospital or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're a mom or a mom to be and your husband is not doing it, for me, she put the fear of God into me to make me have to go. So I would recommend just, threatening him with his life and making him go. No, it's like a child. It's like a child, right? Think of your husband like a kid. Simple reward system. If he does his hour video for the week, he gets a bowl of ice cream. Something silly like that. Like if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So, say, listen, I know you don't want to do this, but if you just sit down with me once a week for 1 hour, I'll let you go play video games for the rest of the night and I won't bother you. Whatever it is, give your husband some sort of simple reward for the thing that he's doing, because we're like kids,
So now I want you to talk to the dad, because dad to be is watching. He's like, my wife made me come on here. He just listened to you say that.
Right.
And what do you tell him to encourage him to do the course with his wife?
Well, okay, so I would recommend doing the course for the purpose of understanding fully what's going on in the birthing room. I mean, I had no idea really anything up until the point
of doing the course or up till birth.
Until doing the course.
Yeah.
Like before the course, I didn't know anything about anything, but I learned all the different medical terms they're going to use for determining how dilated she is and how far along she is, and me doing the course and kind of watching her and seeing how she was reacting to things. I knew she was more ready to go than the nurses had any idea of it, and so I was able to be like, "Hey, nurses, she's ready to go." And so just for the simple fact of being educated enough to where I could.
Do you think that the course helped you to determine when I was going through transition?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about specifics, that's kind of one thing I remember. They came in and checked you in the morning or whatever, and then for the most of the day we were just by ourselves, and I could tell based on how in pain you were and whatnot. I even pushed you past, I think, what you would have called it, I think, at some point, but I kept saying no, let's go get in the shower, because that was another thing too. I didn't realize that warm water alleviates some of that pain. It's a natural painkiller kind of thing. So I said, let's go get in the shower and try that. If you just try the shower and after that you feel like you need it, we'll call them in here. So we did the shower, called them in there, and it turns out she was already at 7. And so at that point it's like, okay, you made it over the hump. The hump is 5 to 7. You made it over. You did the hard part. Now it's the easy part. Now all you got to do is push. Which is not the easy part.
I was like, okay, sure. Yeah. So now tell them what your two or three things about the course that you really liked. I know you just said, scientific stuff.
Well, yeah, medical terms. So, what I really enjoyed about the course was just the simple fact I like to learn. So I learned a lot about how birth is, the process of birth, they use the word interventions a lot, the different interventions that can be done. Just learning all that for my own knowledge was it's interesting to me, so I learned it and enjoyed it. And the other thing was giving me some sort of confidence that I can be there for her and coach her and tell her. And honestly, I guess doing the course didn't necessarily.
Well, it gave you tools, I feel like.
Yeah, it gave me the tools to where once I was in the room, I didn't just feel like a dumb idiot. And then I built the confidence while I was in the room. But the tools I needed from the course, I was able to pull from my pocket and be like, all right, here we go.
Right, because at the end, maybe we'll do another video on this at some point, but at the end there, you were like, hey, I think you need to get on all fours. And I was on top of the hospital bed, on all fours, which was something, and I think it was on the birth ball, at the same time, like the birth ball was on the
You were leaning on the birth ball like this, on your knees.
And that was his idea. He kept saying, I think you should do this. I think you should do this. And I was totally out of it. That's why it's kind of like, you don't have
I just remembered a video of a lady in that course on top of a bed, leaning on a birth ball, moaning, and she said making the noise of moaning and the being leaned over like that helped her with pain. I said, well, maybe it'll help you. And so all I was trying to do was remember the things from the course and be like, okay, well, if you're in too much pain from this, let's try this. If that doesn't work, let's try this. And so I had all these different things we could do. We could walk around. We walked around a lot. You bounced on the birthing ball for a little bit. You just sat on the birthing ball. You sat on the bed.
But you were able to kind of keep giving me different things to trying to do, which I really think is what helped me to
kept your mind from just focusing on the pain and instead focusing on the things you need to do, get the job done.
Right. So what was a thing or some things that you didn't really care for about the course?
Let's see. It's the term crunchy, I guess, is the word you use. It's all like, I mean, and it's because it's a natural birth. I mean, the doula and
the midwife.
The midwife and the doula both.
There was a doula?
Yeah.
Oh, she was a midwife doula. You're right, I think.
Yeah, so the main lady and then the other lady.
Genevieve. She's just a mom.
Genevieve is a mom. I thought she was also a midwife.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, the doula midwife, the assistant, both of them, they're very natural, and so there's even one video where I think you see everything.
Yes.
Yeah, and so like she would watch all the birthing videos because every week there's a birthing video for you to watch. She'd watch them all before, so that way I didn't see.
Yeah, because there were some there was a couple of birth videos that they had that were maybe a little bit much that I wouldn't want him to see. But most of them were really clean, if you can say that.
Yeah. Most, I think there was only one week where it was like, oh, you see everything.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it was either blurred or it was they didn't show it to where it was, you know, you saw the process, but you didn't see the
which
things
I think
you didn't
those
want to
were
see.
super helpful.
They were.
We cried almost after everyone. Every time the baby was born, we were like,
oh yeah, it was super emotional because the mom and the
Yeah.
dad were right there, and it's all super sweet. And
Yeah.
so we were just excited for the baby coming. But yeah, so it was a little
too crunchy.
too natural or too crunchy, I guess, for my liking.
But what's interesting is I think you really didn't want me to have an epidural as much as, if I can remember right.
No, I remember being fully just, if
Whatever
you
you
feel,
want.
yeah, exactly. If you feel like you can't handle it anymore, I will understand you and know when you're faking being too much pain and really in too much pain to where I will be able to tell the nurses, hey, she actually needs epidural. So I didn't really mind if she needed to do something like that. But I knew how much it meant to her to do the natural. And so that's where my mindset, when we went into the birth room, I said to myself, I basically just said, I'm not going to let her get to that point of needing epidural. I'm going to do everything I can to make that doesn't happen. And I think that obviously we accomplished that because she never did it.
Yeah. And looking back, I definitely want another natural birth.
Right.
Because it was amazing. So yeah, anything else?
The other thing, it was a little cheesy when there was like a guys section.
Yeah.
They talked about good stuff, but they were just kind of cheesy about it. And what it is. I mean, they're trying to. I get it. They're trying to make a little fun side guys thing for the guys, and they were sitting around a table and having snacks or beer or soda or whatever, and they did their best. You know, props to them for doing their best, but it was a little cheesy, but whatever. You can get past it.
Hi, Dad. Last question for you. What was your biggest takeaway from the course?
My biggest takeaway. My biggest takeaway was that a mom is meant to give a natural birth. That the medicine and the tools that we use in the hospital, and even the positions that we use in the hospital, the typical laying on your back position, that is all stuff that's been developed by modern medicine in the semi-recent amount of time, you know, in the grand scheme of things. So most of the reason why people don't have a natural birth is a mental thing. I don't want to feel pain. I can't do it. You know, it's a mind thing, honestly. For some people. I can't say that for everyone because I'm a guy telling you as a woman that childbirth is a mind thing. I understand. It's very, very much
But I am going to back you on that with the mind thing because so much of pain is really how you perceive it. And I talk about this in my 22 tips for labor. I think it's 22 tips for labor. Something like that. I talk about this where learning to really train your brain to think positively and like things like a contraction. Don't call it a contraction, call it a surge.
A surge, and you're feeling, instead of pain, you're feeling pressure, things like that. If you look at it in a different mindset, you're gonna have a different you'll have a different outcome. And if you look at it in a positive light, it'll be a positive situation. Yeah. So
I think that's good.
That was what I took from it.
Yeah, well, good. Alrighty, y'all. Well, that's going to wrap up this video. If you have any questions for me or for Cameron, maybe your husband has a question for Cameron, go ahead and comment those below. And, we'd love to answer all those. I know that there's definitely some questions that I get on Instagram a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and link the Mom and Natural Birth course below. Just so you guys are aware, it is an affiliate link, which means I'll make a small commission. But you guys know I don't share anything unless I absolutely wholeheartedly believe in this. And I can tell you this course was 100% worth it for us.
True. Very true.
100%. I would buy it again in a heartbeat. It was amazing. So anyway, hopefully this video helped you guys. And Miss Emmy was really good the whole time, which was good.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe. I post a new video every single Wednesday. Alrighty, y'all. I'll see you next week.